Hi, everybody. Hello, everybody. It's Bill Satry. I am visiting with Jeff Watkins, who is probably one of the best real estate agents down in the St. George area that takes no prisoners and does a really good job of finding people a house or a property or an investment who at night, rather than going, out on the lake or uh, you know, just playing around. He'll actually work with a client day and night till he finds what they are looking for. Jeff, I'm going to turn some time over to you. Just tell us briefly a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I appreciate it, Bill. Before I get into myself, because it's easy to talk about yourself, right? But the thing that I love about real estate isn't necessarily real estate. It's about the relationships and connecting with people. And I'm not a huge social media guy. I really enjoy, keeping up with people's lives and stuff that are close to me. But I also, what I do like about it is the connections. And I got connected with you because I saw one of your videos and thought, hey man, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's fun to listen to, and so just reached out, and here we are. So I appreciate it. But so I'm an agent down here in St. George. I pride myself on a couple of different things, like you said. But what I enjoy about real estate is the relationships and just getting to know people, and working with them to really make their lives better. Because real estate is whether you're buying an investment property or you're buying your first home or your fifth home, real estate is the essence of the American dream, in my opinion. And I think it's fun to be a part of it. It's challenging, but that's what's fun about it. Especially in this market, there's some things that are very, very challenging, but when you can get to the closing table or the finish line, it's just fun. And those are the relationships that you build for a lifetime. I'm not, I know there's some agents that just kind of work, I don't know, they're kind of a one and done, and not to talk bad about anybody, but I just don't operate that way. I would rather work with somebody that is interested in getting to know me and having it be a two-way street. So I've been involved in real estate. We bought our first house in 2014 and just have kind of gone from there. We've owned a few homes ourselves, and I've done some work with some other agents and some family members and things like that. So I've been involved in real estate for a few years and really enjoy it. And a little bit of background on me. I went to the University of Utah, and I was in the corporate world in management for about 9-10 years. I enjoy the outdoors, which is why I'm in St. George, boating and mountain biking, and got up early this morning and went for a ride, and just love it. I have 5 kids, 3 boys and 2 girls, and an amazing wife, and I love everything about St. George. I'm sure we'll get into a few things. Water is a huge issue. Housing shortage is a huge issue, but all in all, St. George is it's just an awesome place. So
You seem like the type of guy that, and if I'm a buyer and I'm looking in St. George, there are so many, everything's stacked against me, especially when you look at what happened this spring where there were cash buyers and 20 offers on each house. I've seen that settle down. What I want to do is see if there's an agent out there that could give a buyer hope. There are so many tentative buyers, and the worst decision they make is they don't hook up with an agent. And I'm really not pro agent in a normal world where I could go knock on a door and there's a for sale by owner and we could all work out a deal. But this isn't a normal environment. We're working with people who have, for example, in your office, when do you have your business meetings? Where do you have your sales meetings? It's once a week. What day is it?
Yeah, we'll usually do them Thursday mid mornings every week.
So if you don't have a good agent that goes to that meeting and finds out what all the listings are, like grandma just died and there's a house that the state's going to put together and they're just going to list it, and you don't get, if you're not in on that inside of an inside information, I think you're too late by the time you're looking through listings. And there's a real cool house for mid fives and it's got a swimming pool and you're looking at it on an MLS sheet. It's too late. Like the real good ones have already got the offers and they've been submitted. The open house was done and you're really reading about past history. So that's why it's important. Tell me I'm wrong. You got to have a good agent.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's a pretty realistic and down to earth approach to real estate. Just playing devil's advocate before I really get into why I agree with you. Playing devil's advocate, you're right. In a normal market, meaning a normal market is not like what we've seen the last few months. So a normal market, as far as inventory turnover goes, really you're looking at about 20% or more is a seller's market. As far as absorption rate goes, talking about inventory turnover, February, March, April, May, a little bit into June, we saw a 70% absorption rate. Just unbelievable.
What do you mean by absorption rate? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so absorption rate, simply put, is the amount of listings compared to the amount of solds. So when you look at that ratio, 20% is a seller's market. Anything less than 20% is a buyer's market. And I mean, we saw numbers in the mid 70s, just unbelievable. So, I mean, we're talking, and we just have never seen anything like that. I mean, if you go back to March and April, you're seeing a home that maybe it appraises for $500,000, that's listed for $525,000, and you have 20 offers in 3 days that sells for $575,000. People waiving appraisals, people waiving, agreeing to pay whatever the appraisal gap is, waiving home inspections, just things that as an agent I just would never advise.
Biggest investment in your life, and you're going to waive all your rights. I mean, it's just like going out and buying a used car and saying, I don't care it's been through the shop, don't care it's a rebuilt transmission, right? You're just going to take it as is.
Exactly.
So dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a good example. So just to play devil's advocate, on the buyer side, I don't want to say that a buyer wouldn't be able to do something on their own. Because if you're willing to put the effort in and you're willing to put the time in, you really don't need an agent. And that's me as a real estate agent saying that. And I'm realistic. But if you can find not a good agent, there's a lot of good agents out there. But if you can find a great agent that will work for you, it's going to take a lot of stress. An agent that knows how to write a good offer, an agent that knows how to separate themselves from the 10 or 12 other offers. Even as a first-time home buyer, I mean, a lot of first-time home buyers think you've got to have 20% to put down. You just don't. As a first-time home buyer, I mean, I saw people on my team and in my brokerage, and even people that I've helped, they had no hope. And
you got them bought.
Yeah, and it's a way to, you've got to know how to word your offer. You've got to know how to separate yourself a little bit and really set yourself apart. And I think the agents that know the market, that know the listing, that are well connected with the other agents that are working for you, that know of listings coming up, that can say, hey, look, let's get in on this before it even hits the MLS. That's the key. And you're right, things have softened just a little bit. My overall opinion, I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit more, is that it'll probably heat back up come September, October. But it has softened, and I think it softens every summer.
Who wants to
wasn't
look at a
posted.
house when it's 110 degrees, right? Which that's exactly why you should be looking at a house. Is everybody's blinking right now. They've taken time off. They've
Mhm.
gone on vacation, and whoever might be listing a house right now, you might get in on the deal of the century. And if you don't get in on the deal of the century, at least you're not paying 50 grand over. Like maybe you can just get the house for real value. And this is why you need an agent or a person that has the inside edge. And in the auto industry, I talk about this all the time. I'm just going to bring this up. You can't buy a used car unless you have somebody in a dealership. If you really want a good used car, like a good one, you go to a Lexus, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Porsche, Audi. You go to one of those dealerships, because at a Lexus dealership, for example, grandma who drove her LS 430, or grandpa put 20,000 miles on it in the last 10 years. They traded in. They don't really care what they get for it. Here's a beautiful car. And the only people that get those cars, the only people, are employees or people that work for the dealership or their family. And once in a while, there's a customer smart enough that'll hand them a Visa card to American Express and say, put $500 on a car that you think is really good. I'll come in, test drive. If I don't like it, give me my deposit back. Well, it's the same in the real estate industry. Something that's going on in Apple Valley. Something that's going on in Virgin, or you just got a tip that one of the agents that you share the floor with in your building is going to list this absolutely gorgeous home. And you've got to have that inside person. Right now, if you really want to deal. Now, if you don't want to deal and you're just moving out of California and say, hey, look, I'm just going to get something mid-fives. Don't care. I'll just take it. If I don't like it, I'll rent it and I'll build something. Just go out there and close your eyes and pick one. But if you got to live in this thing, St. George is notorious for having duplicate houses everywhere that are 1,200 to 1,500 square feet, that have 1-foot tiles, dingy kitchens, small bedrooms, and a backyard that's about this wide with a wall that's about 8 to 10 feet high. Tell me I haven't just explained or described a third of the houses in St. George.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd agree with that, and I don't know if I can speak to why, aside from builders of that vintage coming in and buying certain parcels of land and just throw. And there's a lot of cogs that go into the wheel with building permit approvals and stuff like that, but they just it's almost like they were copying the Las Vegas style and just throwing up as many homes as they can in the smallest amount of space possible. And it's a little bit frustrating when you see those, but to speak to that from the other side as well, there's also some gorgeous neighborhoods and places that kind of like Bloomington. I live in Bloomington where you got a good mix. No house is the same. They've kind of the high roller area of the late 80s and early 90s, and you're seeing some turnover there with some of the elderly people that are passing away and their kids just wanting to sell the home. Those are the kind of deals that you've got to be aware of and you've got to be connected to, and like you said, if you know a good car salesman, or somebody at the dealership that can hook you up, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. Same thing in the real estate industry. I mean, if you're well connected to a couple of good agents, or one good agent that can give you some insight, the best thing you can do as a buyer, especially like you were describing, aside from there's all sorts of buyers out there, but if you're a buyer and you're aggressive, and you go out of your way to do a couple of different things, whether you're working with your agent on, okay, this is the neighborhood that I want to live in. Here's the price that I'm willing to pay. Let's send out a mailer to everybody in that particular neighborhood saying, hey, I've got a buyer for your house. And someone may call and say, hey, I've been thinking about moving, or whatever. Let's, I don't want to list my house. I don't want to mess with any of that stuff. Let's just get it done. Those are just an example of one of the things you can do as a buyer with your agent to get into a home that, again, like you said, if it's on the MLS, probably too late.
It's too late. Yeah, the average ones that isn't, the ones with the leaky pools, there's ones that I've seen they're right on cliffs, and I built on cliffs before, and I know they're gonna have problems with their backyard. It just, I know it's just too close to the edge, and the
Yeah.
sale failed and you see it back on the market. Don't be stupid. Like, think of, I'm just thinking out loud because I'm from the auto industry. I used to work for a major manufacturer, and I watch people grind over $1,000 or 2 grand, or the car came in and somebody took it on a test drive. Instead of it having 3 miles on it, it had 20. And they're up in arms because the car has 20 miles. Who put those 20 miles on? Think of how stupid we are on
Yeah.
certain things. But that same couple will pay 50 grand over on a house they never walked through. They saw it on a Zoom video. You have to be smart. If this market takes a dive, or it goes neutral, or something goes wrong, you don't want to be sitting in negative equity. And if you'd have just worked a little harder with an agent, you'd have started off with positive equity and you'll keep going. St. George is one of those stories that happens in once of a lifetime. You, just like you said, you hit St. George, 7 or 8 years ago, you could have bought a house for 150,000. Now that house is worth 400,000. Okay, let's move on to today. You're going to have to pay 400 to 600 to get something that you really like, and that could be worth 800. Or step up to the plate and build yourself something that'll allow you to have instant equity the time you finish it. If you built a fourplex right now in St. George, you'd make nothing but money. I'm sure you've had clients that have finished the fourplex and decided they were going to keep it with the renters in it, make $8,000 to $10,000 a month, and somebody came along, gave them a ridiculous offer. If you don't move, it's three parts in St. George. It's not like this. It is like this in other parts of the United States, but St. George is an island. You've got to decide if you really want to move to St. George. That's idea number one. And if you have a stupid attack that you want to move to Mesquite, that's fine. I love Mesquite. Don't get me wrong, but that's a different deal, different culture. It is night and day different. You're going to be alone in Mesquite and you're going to love it. You're going to love the entertainment that's nightly. You're going to just love not having to pay state tax. There is benefits. You're an hour and 10 minutes away from Vegas. It's all that. But if you decide you want to throw your hat in a ring and be in St. George, you have got to stand up to the plate. You cannot be meek. You can't say, well, let's look today. You got to be committed. So first you decide you want St. George. Second, find yourself an agent that's an agent, not a part-time agent, or an agent that will be too busy or forgot to tell you about the listing of the century. Get a guy that does this for a living and understands how you have to be connected to the market. And third, get ready to commit. Get your letter from the bank, have your cash ready. Don't be stupid and say, well, we better go to the bank and see if we can get finance for this amount. That isn't this market. You'll be thrown out. It'll kick you to the curb on this. Make sure you're ready and have your funds available, and a letter stating you're a millionaire 7 times over, so you can get in line. And if you poise yourself, I believe you have a better chance of getting what you deserve and what you want to negotiate, as opposed to what's left over. Your wife gets tired, everybody gets tired, and all of a sudden you make a decision on a C+ home. Tell me I'm wrong on that type of strategy.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I really do, Bill. And I think as an agent, those are the things that you try to not necessarily sell your buyers on, but those are the things that you want to line up for them on what they're doing. And I think to add to that, what about a first-time home buyer that that maybe has been in their job for 1.5 years and has saved $5,000, and what do you do? As an agent, you've got to be able to work with a lender and have those types of relationships where you can get a lender involved that says, okay, well, what about a 401k? There's options with the 401k to withdraw that money for a first-time home buyer and use that money towards the down payment and not have any tax repercussions for that. and be able to pay yourself back over time.
So let me stop you right there. This is great. My daughter, let's say, has done very well with her 401k. She's got 30 grand. Let's say I'm making up a number. You're telling me she could give herself a loan on the first house that she buys, first time home buyer. She could give herself a loan through the 401k, even though she only have 5 or 10 grand in the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really not that difficult of a process. I did it myself on my first time home buyer. I had to scrape together every last cent I had to get into my first home, but I knew somebody had told me at one point in my life, the earlier you can get into a home, the better.
I got in at 21.
Yep, I was 26, I believe, when we bought our first house, and it was the best decision I ever made. We're on our 5th house now, and it's getting a little bit off topic here, but real estate is how you build that horizontal wealth. The common denominator with a lot of the people that I've talked to that are very, very wealthy, not rich, but wealthy, because there's a difference. The common denominator is property, whether it's land, whether it's rental properties, whether it's multifamily units, whether it's flipping homes, whatever the case may be. The common denominator is property. And again, a little off tangent here, you could make the argument that property is the only real tangible asset ever in anything. And I mean, the founding fathers made it so that you couldn't vote unless you had property. And I think there was a reason behind it. I think we've kind of evolved a little bit from that, but I think there was a reason behind that. So to get back to the 401k thing, yeah, Bill, you can. I would highly advise getting with a lender, but from what I do know, if you were to withdraw that money, they do count it as income, but the tax repercussions for that are very, very minimal compared to if you just wanted to withdraw your money early. And so those options are out there.
Right. And you could own that home for 3 years, get it refinanced, pay your 401k back, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
Guys, if you're not dealing with Jeff and you're in the market and you're first time buyer, even if you're out of St. George area, I would advise you to give this gentleman a call on these type of issues. And if he can't help you, he'll put you in the front of somebody. But the train's leaving the station for first time buyers. It's like, I thought it was gone 10 years ago, but just to give you an idea, and it's not a big deal, I just put together all my property tax information. It all came the same day. I own 3 properties. I would have never owned 3 properties. I usually own 1 or 2, but I have decided that I can go out and buy a piece of land, forget all about it, just pay the taxes on it or HOA or whatever it is. I can wake up 10 years later and I've either doubled or tripled my money easily. And if everything goes wrong, I can pack my bags and go move to that piece of property and homestead it if I had to. But if you're not doing anything, you're going to be really regretting what's coming up in the market.
Absolutely. Here's an example of that. I've got some family acquaintances that they lived in Reno, and they got to their retirement age and they decided they wanted to move to St. George, but they didn't want to live in town. So long story short, they ended up finding a place in Toquerville, older home that they were able to renovate and just kind of do some projects as they go. They're retired. They've done set themselves up pretty well financially. This piece of property came with about 25 acres. So this gentleman, he said, well, I don't want any neighbors. So I'm going to buy, he was able to purchase the 28 acres around his property about 6 years ago. And now I didn't believe him when he told me this, and he proved it to me because he had an LOI, he had a letter of intent. But there's a developer. Now Toquerville is going to explode. Okay, so kind of what we were talking about before we recorded, Bill, following the path of growth. Diamond Valley, Toquerville. If you're interested long term in Washington County, those are the places that are really going to be the best bang for your buck and the best value. But just to give you
give somebody an idea where Toquerville is. It's kind of like the road that goes down from Cedar City. You got an exit to go to Toquerville. which is the shortcut to Zion's Park.
Design.
And it's the road, kind of the land before time. You're coming up from one microclimate to another. Describe Toquerville so everybody understands it's kind of north of St. George. Give them an idea where Toquerville is.
Yeah, so 25 years ago, gosh, maybe I probably would say 10, 15 years ago, Toquerville didn't hardly even exist. Just a tiny little town outside of St. George. If you're coming south on I-15, you're right. It's basically the north entrance to Zion. So you've got to go through Toquerville to get to Zion. So there's actually quite a bit of traffic that goes through Toquerville. I was just up there a week ago showing some homes up there, and the expansion up there is just unbelievable. So it's the elevation. You've got about 500 feet more than St. George proper. So the weather's, you've got a couple of degree difference. It's still hot. Don't get me wrong. If it's 110 in St. George, it's still going to be 104 in Toquerville. But hey, when it's 98 in St. George, you're going to be in the low 90s, a little bit more bearable. So it's an old farming, an old agriculture community just outside of St. George. So, but I'll tell you what, there was the most expensive property in Washington County sold in Toquerville. It's up on the top. It was like a 60-acre property, $6 million property that sold. And it's unbelievable. But some of the developments out there are fantastic. There's some beautiful, beautiful homes that are being built out there.
You'll drive by them and not know they're there, and you go down this little road, and there all of a sudden there's a subdivision. And there's houses being built, and you would not know they're there. And there's this creek that runs through, and there's trees, and it's lush. You'd never ever know it's there.
Yeah, Virgin River runs through it, and there's a lot of little creeks that run through it. But you're right, there's these neighborhoods that go up on these little hills, and then there's some that are tucked up against these little cliffs, and it's a really, really cool place. But it's going to explode. So I mean, hey, if you can get into a property there, I showed a property last week. It was a little bit overpriced for what it was. It was an older home that just hadn't really been maintained, but it was on a 2-acre property. And my idea for that property was, man, if you could get into this home and renovate it a little bit and do something with the property, you've got yourself $1 million property in probably 3, 4, 5 years. So those are the things that are happening there. But
and you can grow things. Like, people don't understand. They think you're on the north part of the Mojave Desert, if I remember right. The border is St. George, but people grow things there. You've got a growing season that lasts another 2 or 3 months from what we have up here in Salt Lake, probably 2 months. You got an earlier spring and a later fall, but people can grow tomatoes, they can grow corn, they can grow all kinds of things. And if you're kind of that person that says, I want to be independent, and you just grab 2 acres, there's a lot of things you could do there. So Toquerville is one of the best kept secrets up there. I agree.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
So what is the most, I want to ask the question, what is the most obscene amount of money you've seen somebody make in a short period of time in the St. George area making a purchase, without giving away any names or any information? Just give my followers an idea of the best case scenario that happened to one of your customers.
Yeah. So it kind of depends on what your opinion is on bang for buck, and what the neighborhood looks like. But I know for sure, they weren't my clients, but some people bought a home for $650 in Little Valley last November, sold it in May for about $875.
What? I got to do the math. Little Valley, and I've looked at everything in Little Valley, so I must have missed this one. They bought it for $650.
Yep.
Sold it for $840. That's almost $200,000.
Yeah, they almost made $200K. So, and
wow.
I know there was an article, I think it was actually a national news article about somebody in Florida that made $100,000 in like 2 months. Bought a house for $400,000 and sold it for $500,000, or after real estate fees, $525 or whatever it was, and like the next month or something crazy like that. But I'll give you an example now. I think I'll have to check this morning and see if it's pending or sold, but We haven't talked anything about Desert Color, which is unbelievable. I don't know if you spent any time looking around in Desert Color, but there's a home.
I've spent a lot of time in Desert Color.
Yeah. So there's a home that was finished and closed last February of 2020 for $550. Again, I'd have to look this morning and see if it's pending, but I walked through it. Unbelievable home, listed for 1.2.
What?
Mm-hmm.
In Desert Color, sold for 550, listed at 1.2.
Yep.
Ask me if I like Desert Color.
Hey, Bill, do you like Desert Color?
I see all kinds. This is me, and this is why I'm old and I should be out of this. Don't listen to me. I drive through Desert Color. I see some different houses under one type of architectural design. Then you'll see some different ones. You got this big thing of water. I don't see too many people in it yet, but it's coming. And then I see a really cool downtown area starting to develop. And I'm thinking, oh no, this ain't gonna work. And there's these big fourplexes that go up and you can sleep 12 people. I'm saying not for me. And here you're saying probably one of the best returns on investment that you can possibly find. If you want to know what Desert Color is, if you miss the exit, you're in Arizona. Like you're just right down by the Arizona border, just south of St. George. And if you're young or you want to feel young and you need different things to go on in your life, from ATVs to kayaking to whatever they do down there, that's kind of that group that's a little more hip. That's a place to be. Am I explaining it right, or is it a bunch of old folks like Sun Valley or something?
Yeah, no, I pulled it up here. It's not pending yet. It's listed for 1.199. And it closed February of 2020 for 568. So just
nice, double your money.
Yeah, kind of interesting. Who are they going to get 1.2? I'm not sure. It was an unbelievable home. It was stubbed for stubbed for a pool. Had unobstructed views of the whole Colorado Plateau. All the upgrades you could imagine. Cafe, appliance. Just a beautiful, beautiful home. I'm sure it'll sell for over $1 million.
So
I'm sure it'll sell, but
we're all sitting here complaining of the high prices of St. George, and we can't get in. It's $300 a square foot, and we're just not big league players. Like you get in there and you buy a house for $5. I know I've got family members down there that will double if they decide to sell their house today, they're on a golf course, they would double their money. They'll double their money from buying 4 or 5 years ago. So if you don't step in the game, you're never a player. If you want to rent the rest of your life, you don't make any money. In fact, you don't get the tax deductions. In fact, that's what this world is setting up for, is to be a renter and be a victim. And so the only way is to be able to find an agent such as Jeff and get somebody that will work for you and give you some ideas. And I think you have to have an open mind. You haven't heard of Little Valley, you better check it out. If you know where Demeron Valley is, if you don't know where Toquerville is, and you think you're going to buy in St. George, you might be making a fatal error not learning about these other areas. I'm a big player in Virgin. I think that town's going to grow. I'm close to the park. I got a half acre. I'm on the water. I can go down and float in the Virgin River if I want, and I can watch the mountains. So, I kind of got what I want. I just got a time to build, but I think we all got to get on board and find an agent, hook your caboose to an agent that you can trust and will work for you.
So let me ask you this, Bill, because I know what I would say from the agent standpoint, but from somebody that is advocating for somebody to get a good agent, what about the fees? What about the commission? Isn't it too much? Don't real estate agents just lay in bed and fill out a DocuSign and sell it and make 10 grand on a house? Isn't that kind of how it works? How do you respond to that?
They make 30 to 50 grand. A good agent can make 100 grand. So it isn't about what they make, because you're really not paying anything. The seller is paying the fees. And if you're sharp enough to negotiate, when a seller has fees, that agent is splitting the fees with the agent that's showing the house. So the most
Mhm.
you're really paying if you have an agent in tow is 3%. And it's the cheapest 3% because you're not paying it if you don't have a house. And if you're not sitting in your backyard 45 days from now with your foot dipped in your swimming pool because the agent found you that house, because you're not going to find it on your own, what's that 12 to 15 grand worth? You would have paid more for it if you found it on your own. I really believe that right now. I think when buyers are trying to sell on their own, they're either selling it too cheap or they think their house is worth a lot of money. And I see a lot of green arrows on houses that got marketed the week prior or 2 weeks ago, and they're not getting any offers. And so now they're looking really stupid in the market because now what's wrong with the house? Now they've reduced it $25,000. So you got to find somebody that starts at the right price. You really need an agent that knows the areas. There are some less desirable areas in St. George. I don't go into that because that's where I get my hate mail. But there are just some areas that are average at best. They're just average. They're either too close to the freeway or they just got some really weird designs going on. So if you don't know that, you're going to get screwed up.
Yeah, just to touch on that real quick, because I'm not interested in any hate mail either, but I think, those quote unquote less desirable areas still fit a need for people. In fact, if you look at the neighborhood kind of just to the east of the mall, a lot of people hear that and it's like, oh, that's not a good neighborhood. But I don't agree with that. I think there's a ton of turnover in those areas, and those homes go quick. It's a great opportunity for people that have maybe don't make as much money from a monthly income standpoint. People that don't have that much money to put down. It's a great opportunity for those people that hey, same thing. If you bought a house behind the mall, a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,500 square foot home over in one of those areas 5 years ago, you probably paid 190,000, 180,000, 210,000. I mean, those homes are selling for 390, 400,000 now, and that's an opportunity where, again, it builds horizontal wealth. That's an opportunity to do a cash out refinance and pay off some bills. It's an opportunity to do a HELOC and fix up the house, or do a cash out and get into a rental property. Things that real estate opens so many doors for financial freedom in your life. I've seen it in my own family where, a family member bought a home for less than $200,000 in Provo and kept it as a rental and used the income to qualify for another house. And now they have 2 houses. And guess what? In a couple of years, they'll probably have 3. And then in a couple other years, they'll probably have 4. And, who knows, in 10 years, they may have $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in residual income. Those are the things that real estate can set you up for. And those maybe less desirable areas are a great starting point for people that may fit their mold.
That's a really good point you bring up. Really good point, because sometimes it's about the opportunity, not just about the neighborhood. So you have some chances here or opportunities to do that. And if you're out there not ready to move to St. George, think of this. Just think of this. You're sitting in California, you're watching this, or you're sitting up here in Salt Lake with me. Why don't you just have Jeff find you a house you can flip? Go buy a house, put somebody in it for 2 years, you flip it. What do you have paying income tax after 24 months right now with the current laws? I think it's 0. I think if you own the house for 2 years, and don't go to me for tax laws, but you could be investing your money. But what did you do? You bought Bitcoin. How's that going? It's finally going up after you just got your butt kicked, right? So you can do a lot of things, but all the pros, everybody that talks to you about who makes money in investments, if you look at everybody that's made money in the world, it has all really come from real estate. Real estate has been the best return on investment. Even if you bought a car wash, you got the property of appreciating, the car wash is making you money. At the end of the day, they're both worth more money when you go to sell them. But you can't always say that about other investments. So I would encourage you to call Jeff if you're looking for a house in St. George, if you're looking for an investment, you want to build a house, probably Jeff's the best guy or one of the best guys to talk to. You know, builders, right, Jeff? You can help them out,
Yeah.
hook them up.
Yeah.
You might find a builder right now that's sitting on a house that cost him a lot of money to build because he had to buy this lumber at double or triple the price, and he's willing to negotiate so he can go on to the next build. So
Yeah.
now's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the keys too on that note, Bill. So in my brokerage, Realty One Group, GoldMark, we've got agents that represent builders that, again, kind of have the inside track on what's coming up and what's going to get released soon. You know, smart builders, which I know a couple of. I'm not gonna name any names, but the smart builders watch the stock market, and they watch commodities, and they saw futures of lumber, and the next day, in fact, I know one builder that saw. I had a conversation with him about it, and I said, "Hey, man, how are you keeping your, you know, how are you not screwing people over on contracts and keeping your prices, you know, somewhat low?" And he said, "Well, I saw, you know, I was watching futures, and I saw the futures just unbelievable for lumber. So I went out and bought $4 million worth of lumber the next day." And that's how they prepared. And those are the things that, as a, you know, from a brokerage standpoint and an agent standpoint, those are the connections that you can associate yourself with and be a part of. But it all goes back to one thing. Well, a couple of different things, Bill. You got to be aggressive. You got to, you know, when you've got the right agent that can send you stuff that's coming up, or even on the flip side of that, when it's a two-way street and you're driving around and you see a for sale by owner and you send that to your agent's got the ability to negotiate and chat, because you know, it's one of those things where it's a two-way street. I firmly believe that. And when someone's aggressive and ready to rock and roll, it can really pay dividends in the future. And a for sale by own, really, to talk about for sale by owners for just a second too, statistics show that for sale by owners sell 20% less than listed homes. It's just a number. The numbers don't lie. And that's a national statistic. I'd have to look it up and see what that looks like in Washington County. I don't know if you can find those stats, but I mean, you think about 20%, what that means in today's market. I mean, what's 20% of $500,000?
$100,000.
Yeah. You know, what if you could get into a $500,000 home for $400,000?
Right.
It's a pretty sweet deal, you know? So
there's deals out there to be found. You got to find an agent. This agent's even willing to, you may have to do some mailings out to a neighborhood or knock doors or do whatever you got to do, but you got to find somebody who's committed to the marketplace. You can't have somebody touch this marketplace like you go to a swimming pool and just put your hand in or toe it. They got to know the what's going on.
Yeah, you got to backflip into the pool. You can't keep your big toe in and expect you're going to find something. So one thing I wanted to bring up as well, Bill, is in Washington County, there's 2,200 licensed agents, but more than half of those agents don't sell any homes. They're just licensed. There's a lot of friends and family deals down here. There's about, you know, and I don't want to talk bad about any agents. There's a lot of fantastic agents down here. But really, I think what sets me apart from even the top producing agent down here who I know, the thing that will set me apart from those agents is I'm not going to just put a sign in the front yard. I'm not just going to, you know, make a phone call or a text message. The key is to target market. I'm a target marketing specialist that just happens to have a real estate license. And so I really enjoy nailing it down. I really enjoy nailing it down. I'm not interested in, you know, 1.2 million views. I'm not interested in, you know, 550 likes on my Facebook page. I'm interested in the in the 3 views of someone that's super serious, or, you know, the comment on my Facebook post that says, "Hey man, let's rock and roll. Let's get it done." So that I think is what is going to set me apart as an agent, is what you've described as, hey, I'm I'm going to do a double backflip into the pool instead of just dipping my toe in. And I enjoy it. St. George is awesome. I love just sometimes I'll just go drive around and keep my eye open for a cool house or, for sale by owner, or, hey, this is a neighborhood that I've never really driven through. I enjoy doing it. St. George is a really, really cool place.
I tend to agree with you. It's the right elevation where you get the benefit of a prolonged summer, prolonged spring. You're not going to be shoveling snow there, and it's growing. It has an international airport or a national airport. You can get to Phoenix, California. You can get to places. You can get to Mexico, believe it or not, through Phoenix, and go to a lot of different places. It's 5 national parks around you, then a 2-hour drive. It is a cool place, and it's getting found out. So I encourage you to get a hold of me, to get a hold of Jeff. You can look him up at Realty One Group, the GoldMark office, and that's located in what town there? Is that in St. George?
Yeah, so our office is a really cool location. It's right on Main Street in Tabernacle. So if you're downtown anywhere, you can park and walk to the office. So the office address is 20 North Main. We're at Suite 107. You can walk in there. You can call me. My phone number is 435-922-0012. And I'm sure, Bill, I can get you to put that in the description as well.
Yes.
Email,
let Jeff know that you watched the show, either part of it or all of it. So we get a good idea where this comes from. This isn't a paid endorsement. I do this to try to find agents that I believe are top of their game and share them with my consumers. So here's one that you could actually call and get involved with. So again, any other comments, Jeff, before we close the show?
I appreciate your time, Bill. I think just to close with my main bullet points are number one, real estate can provide opportunities for financial freedom, for financial stability. It's the only, in my opinion, the only tangible asset that we have. It's the essence of the American dream. When you ask somebody, hey, what are your goals in life? It usually involves owning a home. So it's fun to be a part of it. I'm not an agent that just dabbles. Again, I'll do the backflip for you and jump in the pool. I'm not super high pressure. I've been there in my career. I really enjoy the relationship aspect of it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'm interested in working with people that that are ready to rock and roll, that are aggressive. And if they're not, I want to be able to show them how to get there. And all in all, hey, St. George is growing. It's an awesome place, and I can definitely be part of the home buying process for you in St. George, because I know the area. I love the area. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. So
there you go. There's your agent. You guys are out looking around. You think you can do this on your own and you're getting tired, or you're from California and you just don't know who to talk to. Here's your guy.
Yeah.
Or if you're from Salt Lake or up north and you're starting to look, you got to start soon so you know what you're going to end up with. So this is the man to call. Well, Jeff, thank you very much. I'm going to say goodbye to my audience. And if you'll just hold on after, that'd be great. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed our show. Please leave a comment or like. That's what everybody says. It's like, comment, subscribe, so I can put up more of these videos for you. Wow, that was good. That went real well. Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome, Bill. I probably could have kept going.